Here.
There we go.
Ms. Cartier? Mrs. Chamberlain?
Here.
Ms. Muck?
Here.
Ms. Chafee?
Here.
Mr. Wiggler?
Here.
Mrs. Thompson? Mr. Nutter?
Here.
Mr. Chairman?
Here.
Ms. Coviello? And Mr. Whitelaw?
Here.
Good. First item is approval of minutes. First item we have is the executive session minutes, January 11th, 2024. It was in your packet as well as in the drive.
Vote to accept, vote to accept.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second. Any further questions? Roll call.
Dr. Allen?
Pass.
Mr. Marsh?
Yes.
Mr. Deschamps?
Yes.
Mr. Willinan?
Yes.
Ms. Kelly?
Yes.
Ms. Garvey?
Yes.
Mrs. Chamberlain?
Yes.
Ms. Muck?
Abstain.
Ms. Chafee?
Yes.
Mr. Wiggler?
Yes.
Mr. Nutter?
Yes.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes. We have our February 8th, 2024 minutes. Is there a motion to approve?
To accept.
Okay, approval?
Second.
Is there a second? Second. Any potential additions, omissions, or deletions? Seeing and hearing none, roll call, please.
Dr. Allen?
Yes.
Mr. Marsh?
Yes.
Mr. Deschamps?
Yes.
Mr. Willinan?
Yes.
Ms. Kelly?
Yes.
Ms. Garvey?
Yes.
Mrs. Chamberlain?
Yes.
Ms. Muck?
Abstain.
Ms. Chafee?
Yes.
Mr. Wiggler?
Yes.
Mr. Nutter?
Yes.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes. One more, March 12th, 2024, approval of minutes.
Move to accept.
Okay.
Second.
Mr. Allen, second. Any potential additions, deletions, or omissions? Seeing and hearing none, roll call.
Dr. Allen?
Pass.
Mr. Marsh?
Yes.
Mr. Deschamps?
Yes.
Mr. Willinan?
Yes.
Ms. Kelly?
Yes.
Ms. Garvey?
Yes.
Ms. Cartier? Mrs. Chamberlain?
Yes.
Ms. Muck?
Yes.
Ms. Chafee?
Yes.
Mr. Wiggler?
Yes.
Mr. Nutter?
Yes.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes. Thank you. Third item is the Student Advisory Council. I'll turn it over to the superintendent and to our student reps.
Yeah, I'm actually going to turn it over to Isabel Coviello. So Isabel brought this idea to us that this is something that she really wanted to highlight that happens at the school. And I believe, Isabel, when you were in 8th grade, you were our student rep for Project 351. So we're going to turn it to you to introduce your team.
Great. All right. So yeah, in 8th grade, I was selected. I was called down by Mr. Devine. And I thought I was in trouble. And he and I think it was Mr. Nikora, said, hey, here's this program called Project 351, and we're gonna select you to be the Hubbardson ambassador. And I was like, I have no clue what that is, but okay. Project 351 is a youth-led leadership movement that seeks to inspire hope, unity, and love across young people in the state of Massachusetts. So each year, schools across the Commonwealth select one 8th grade ambassador to represent their hometown, hence the name 351, 351 cities and towns in Massachusetts. This year, Quabbin was lucky enough to have 4 amazing ambassadors, so what we call the 8th graders, participating. So we have Lillian McKinstry from Barry and Josie Buck from Hardwick, both here tonight. Unfortunately, Noah from Hubbardson and Kingston from Oakham weren't able to make it, but they say hello. So these ambassadors are here today to speak with you about their experiences at Project 351 in their annual launch event in January, as well as their plans for spring service. I'm still with Project 351 as an alumni leader. So they split these over 351 kids into groups called service hero teams. So I'm lucky enough to have Noah, because he's from my hometown, on my service hero team, as well as kids from Western Mass and all the way to Nantucket. And we serve in honor of an unsung hero. So mine is the Kelly family from Templeton. Big, Mr. Kelly's fire chief there, amazing family. But you also have the Taylor Swift service hero team, and these larger names. But Project 351 has partnered with organizations like the Celtics, the Patriots, John Hancock, and the Martin Richard Foundation to impact the lives of over 1 million people across Massachusetts. They encourage schools to select ambassadors who are quiet heroes, who value kindness, compassion, humility, and gratitude. So this year, Quabbin has an amazing group of kids. I reached out to them maybe a month or two ago just to check in how they were doing after launch day, because it's this huge thing. They bus them all in at 8 a.m. to the JFK library. And you have kids who have been on a bus for 3 hours and they're like, I don't know what this is. There's 500 people here. Maura Healy was there. She's basically saying, you guys are awesome. All of these people who have such amazing stories. And then they have the kids go and participate in these wonderful service sites. So I think the next slide or the slide after highlights some of the service. On launch day, you have a really great opportunity to do some in-person service. So our 3 service sites on January 13th, Cradles to Crayons, where ambassadors sorted and cleaned clothing donations for young children in the greater Boston area, as well as La Collaborativa, which is in Chelsea. So a lot of students, they work to create hygiene and education kits, so the hygiene kits had deodorant and toothpaste, and toothbrushes and socks, and the education kits had colored pencils and notebooks and things that a lot of students don't have access to, especially in areas like Chelsea and the greater Boston area. They also did either of you guys go to La Collaborativa? I know, yeah, Noah went there. We were able to work directly with the communities we were serving, by not only cooking meals to distribute, but also handing out food to, I think it was over 2,500 people under an overpass. It was something, I don't even have the words for it. It was a wonderful thing to be able to talk to the people who you were directly helping. We also had ambassadors go to IBEW, about 20 minutes from the JFK library, where they created more meal kits, as well as Annie's kindness blankets for veterans, children's hospitals, and refugees. I think Charlie Baker was there for a bit, Maura Healy was helping them out, and Ed Markey was there for a little bit. So now we're gonna get to, I think Lillian's slide is first. If you want to talk a little bit about launch for you. So for launch, you want to stand up and.
Lillian, could we ask you to come up by the microphone, kind of by Isabel, if you don't mind?
If you want to stand in the clear, so like
So, hi, my name is Lillian McKinstry. I was placed at Cradles to Crayons, and there were different stations there. I was placed at cleaning and sorting through shoes, so that they would be able to go to different houses in need. And the ones that didn't pass the I can't think of it.
They just had like a little
The like
quality sort, right?
the quality check went to a different box. They didn't get thrown away or anything. They went to like thrift stores or different places that could sell them or repurpose them for other uses, but they all got used. So for launch, I had an amazing group. We we warmed up to different people, but by the end, all of us were like working together and we were laughing, and it was one of the best things ever. I really enjoyed it. My favorite thing was the different connections with the different people at the Cradles to Crayons and in my service group. My why was knowing that I can help other people who need stuff that they won't be able to get in other ways that most people are able to.
Thank you, Lillian. I think next up was Noah, who wasn't able to be here today, but he was on my service hero team. Also at La Collaborativa with me. He says, I was sent to La Collaborativa in Chelsea and I was at the site with different jobs. I first started making hygiene kits for families around the area who needed them most. These range from shampoo to informational kits that showed kids good hygiene. After we filled up around 100 boxes and drawstring bags, or boxes of drawstring bags, we were sent to hand out food to those who needed it most in the community. He really liked putting together the hygiene kits. He had like a competition to see who could put together the most. He was really excited to host clothing drives, and he's shown a lot of leadership. He looks forward to giving back to the community and improving the situations of others. And something that I thought was very cool on the next slide, and also I think in your folders, Noah was interviewed for the Boston Globe while we were at La Collaborativa. And I think that's in your folders. I'm not entirely sure. But I don't know. I thought that was very interesting.
Sorry. So just leave it. Yep, I'm sorry.
Oh, no, you're good. He said he felt empowered to be a leader in his local community, whether it's a big community or small community, and help people who needed it most. And then I believe the next slide is Josie.
My name's Josie. I was Hardwick's ambassador last year.
Come up by the speaker if you would.
Just
Put a round thing there.
Okay.
I was also at Cradles to Crayons and I was in a different group than Lily and I went through the clothes and I did the quality check. And I think by the end, after we sorted all the good clothes into bins, we had 72 bins to give out to people. And it was just this huge stack of like clothes that I knew were gonna go out and help other people that didn't have access to that stuff. And it was really nice to just be with a ton of like-minded people, just helping others, even though we couldn't like interact with them directly. It was still nice to know that we were helping. And it was just like an amazing experience. We didn't like, sorry. We didn't get to do like anything else. So basically, we'd take clothes, we'd make sure they passed, and if they didn't pass, we'd put them either a red bin or a yellow bin. The ones that didn't pass, we were told were just going to be given to other people because it was specifically for newborns to like teenagers. But there was another section for adults. I was really motivated to just give back what has already been given to me by all of the communities. But yeah, that's pretty much it.
Thank you, Josie. Our last Quabbin ambassador also wasn't able to be here. His name's Kingston, and he's from Oakham, right? If I'm not mistaken, he's from Oakham. So he was at IBEW working with peers to put together various kits for those in need. So more mental health kits and wellness kits. He says he really enjoyed bonding with his team leader. Project 351 hosts a very diverse group of young people, and it's getting more and more so each year. So especially when you're from small town areas, it's really important to meet people who are different than you, but still share that same love of service and that passion for change. He says he's glad that he met all these wonderful people and can't wait to see them again soon. He also really enjoyed creating kids at IBEW. He's really excited to help out with everything and everything. He looks up to his service leader and can't wait to hopefully become one someday too. He serves because he loves helping people. It brings me satisfaction knowing that I helped someone, even if it's in the littlest way, which I thought was very sweet. So after launch, to keep the kids together, even though they're only able to meet in person 2 times, once in January and once in June at Gillette Stadium, they have an online program called Service Leadership Academy for the first few weeks after launch, where they unite virtually to kind of grow as leaders. They also work with one of 351's best partners, the Celtics, in the Shamrock Foundation through something called the Playbook Initiative. A wonderful program that every year I try and bring to Quabbin, and every year Playbook goes, we'll bring you next year. We'll have Quabbin do it next year. Hopefully next year. But it basically teaches to not be a bystander in instances of discrimination based on race, religion, gender, sexual orientation, ability, etc. Ambassadors participate in the Playbook Initiative for 2 weeks, and then they move on to preparing for spring service, which at Quabbin is launching, I think, the week after next. So I think that's on the next slide, all of their flyers and stuff. They've been preparing really hard. But spring service benefits Cradles to Crayons, which was one of the main service sites at launch day. Collecting youth clothing, gently used clothing. We'll have, I think you guys are gonna have a bin at Quabbin and then at a few of the elementary schools. And then a few other places in the community to ensure that people, even if they aren't in the district, can still contribute. And a lot of times I'll tell people this and they'll go, well, Cradles to Crayons is in Greater Boston. That is true. It doesn't necessarily impact the community that like we see around us, but it kind of provides a really good transition because organizing a drive when you are in 8th grade and have never done it before is a big task. So Project 351 will hold your hand through it. And then in the fall, they'll say, okay, we want you to pick a food bank, or we want you to pick a charity or something that you feel important or you feel strongly about. It benefits your community. And we'll still help you. But spring service is basically their first go. Their first, okay, you're the leader now. What are you gonna do? Do you guys have anything to add about spring service? All right. And I think, yeah, a couple upcoming events. So spring service will be at Quabbin from March 25th to April 4th. Then they'll have Earth Day, Hope and Gratitude Walk, few different service opportunities in regional areas. So I think Quabbin's usually centralized around Wachusett. We'll have reunion at Gillette Stadium. Last year, we were joined by a ton of Patriots, which was very cool. A few musicians. We're in like the Putnam Club at Gillette, which I think the ambassadors find very cool. I also find very cool. And then they have one of the best parts of the year is the 9/11 tribute service in Boston, where they work usually on the Rose Kennedy Greenway, putting together packages, not just for veterans and actively deployed military, but they also work with the Massachusetts Military Heroes Fund and will directly contribute to, they have a shelter in Boston, and a lot of times the ambassadors get to go there. And again, it's a way for them to directly see who they are helping and serving. So they look forward to that, and then fall service in November. So I think that's pretty much it. Quabbin has a great group of students this year. I'm sure that you will be seeing them in the future, probably in one of these seats in the future. But yeah, I think that is pretty much all I have for that. Do you guys have anything else to add? All right.
First off, it is Lillian and Josie, correct? Thank you. And then I know if anybody has a comment, first would like to immediately do this. Thank you. It's a risk to come up and talk to any group, isn't it? Groups you don't know. I'm going to ask one quick, then I'll ask my colleagues. Thank you for taking the risk. for going to Boston, going to a you said 500 people were there?
500 people.
Okay, thank you. That is, it speaks volumes, not only of your potential leadership skills, your comfortability and yes, it's anxious, absolutely. But thank you. My two questions are, you talked about, do you believe this is a, excellent project to persuade others to get involved?
Absolutely. The connection, everything that comes with being an ambassador, and especially with the timing for eighth grade, if you try and are trying to go to a different high school or like colleges and stuff, it's always great for a look on applications. And like, depending on what job you try and go into, that would also help.
Thank you. And it can open up many doors for service perspectives and careness. And I'm looking at all three of you. Thank you for caring, because you didn't have to do it. So that's meaningful. Truly is. Any comments? Dr. Allen?
A couple of things. This reminds me of an old football analogy, Mr. Inside, Mr. Outside. Nick, you talked last time about a project where you were bringing children from the middle school into the mainstream of the rest of the students. Sort of Mr. Inside and Ms. Outside here, where they're going out and doing these projects that affecting, and I'll tell you what it reminds me of. I hear people say, "Company, you gotta teach civics." Well, what is this? If this is, it's not just legislative, executive, and administrative. We all learned that, but this is civics in action. This is going out and doing something for the improvement of people in the Commonwealth and giving back to the community, which is something that we believe is very important. So good job, good job, good job.
Anyone else? Anyone in Zoom? School committee members? One quick question. Any questions you have for us? No? Okay. Thank you. And again, we've been doing this how many years? Did you say
I think this is their 14th year.
14th year? So we'll be hearing more.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Again, thank you very much. Anything, Nick, we're all set?
Yeah, nothing to report on.
Okay. Yes, you can certainly, yeah.
Walk them up.
You can stay if you like, but you can go home without a problem. Thank you.
I'll be right back.
School committee members, if there's no objection, one item out of order, out of new business. The request for the class 2025 oversight field trip to New York City. If there's no objection,
Yeah, good.
okay? Superintendent?
DC wasn't enough for you, now you want to go to New York?
Superintendent, no.
Mr. Nozick needs as much sleep as he can get because he and his wife are expecting a baby. So I'm sure he appreciates being able to go a little early.
Congratulations.
This may be covering as a chance to get away and not come back if. So I am one of the two class advisors. Davey Youngberg is the other one for the class of 2025. So we're here tonight to get approval to take the class in September to New York City for either 1 or 2 nights. At the moment, we don't have a definitive thing on 1 or 2. We've conducted surveys and we're in communication with Pernima to try to determine if 2 nights would be too cost prohibitive. We don't want to exclude kids because of inability to pay. We want this to be an exclusive experience. It's not cheap. New York's not cheap. Nothing's cheap. We will be fundraising, but we want to make sure that any kid who wants to go has the ability to go. So we're still finalizing. So I believe Mrs. Bennett sent you both proposals. And putting difference is a few $100s, which I think to some families would make a difference.
And it's student travel. Mrs. Bennett sent us from the.
Yes.
No relation, Dr. Allen.
Wait a minute.
So we're looking to take this group. This is a group that, if you think back, missed their opportunity to go to DC because of COVID. They missed a lot of opportunities to bond and connect in those really important 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th grade years. So Mr. Youngberg and I are looking at this as an opportunity to kind of get some of that back, create something positive. Yeah, we do have a lot of educational stuff on there as well. Some pretty powerful things. We're looking to go to the 9/11 Memorial, Museum of Fine Arts. So some culture, experience the city that some kids may not get the opportunity to travel to from this area, and do something as a class, as a group going into their senior year. We would like to do more, but with the demands academically, athletically, any other outside programs, 1 to 2 nights is really all we can really look at doing, but we figured that this would be better than nothing. So if you have any questions, we're happy to try and answer them for you.
I apologize. I didn't print both. I seriously thought you sent me the same email twice. I apologize.
That's a fair assumption. It's something I would do, but yes. So which one do they have?
They have the 2 night.
Okay, so the one night would be departure Friday morning, same hotel. Mostly the same itinerary. We would lose a little bit, obviously, because we're going to be there less time. And we'd be returning to Barry around 10:30 p.m. on Saturday night. So it is a considerable savings of almost $300 to not do the extra night, not staying on a Saturday night, not staying an extra night, a couple less meals. So, like I said, we're trying to make sure that any kid who wants to go has the opportunity to go.
They're all in the drive now.
Thank you, Ms. Bennett.
Welcome.
So you want to keep that option? Is that what you're trying to do? You're not sure?
We're close to finalizing. We're going to say this is, we're not going to present. We did a survey with the kids.
Yep.
Would you be interested? Would cost be, a factor for either option? Would you be willing to fundraise? So we're looking at that data and we're going to make a decision, assuming approval, and then present that to the kids. This is your field trip. So
You'd like to have the option?
we're still looking at, we're waiting for a few more kids to hopefully respond. We've got about 40% of the class. So as a math teacher, that's almost enough of a strong sample size. The numbers shouldn't change too much more, but.
And then you're saying doing some fundraising and then seeing if there's any donations and things like that?
Yep.
Dr. Allen?
Yeah, move approval with the usual provisos. And I have some comments here too.
Okay, is there a second? Second.
No, you did, no.
Alphonse and Gaston over here.
Yeah. Dave, okay. Questions, comments? Dr. Allen?
Yeah, I looked at this and the first thing that stuck out, Yankee Stadium. Right?
The Red Sox happen to be there. I don't know how that happened, but.
But then I saw the Red Sox are playing there. Okay. That's okay. Metropolitan Museum of Art's good. United Nations. I went there with my class in 1956. Probably looked much the same as it did then. So this looks like a good thing. And Chris, when we finish up here, stop by, would you?
I don't know what that means, but okay.
Chris, have you, or first of all, how many chaperones do you plan on having?
It would depend on the number of kids. Ratio is usually about 10 to 1. So if we got 80% participation, we're looking at about 10 chaperones.
You've been in New York recently?
Within the last 2 years.
So,
I'm very familiar with the city. Yeah.
good. Yeah, because obviously Washington DC, very walkable.
Yes.
And our city is a little different, yeah.
The itinerary, we wouldn't be traveling on any subways. We're not, the bus is going to be bringing us from location to location. So there wouldn't be heavy foot traffic and going anywhere. Yes. It can be a walkable city, not with 90 or 117.
Any other questions? And on Zoom, members? Roll call, please.
Dr. Allen?
Yes.
Mr. Marsh?
Yeah.
Mr. Deschamps?
Yes.
Mr. Wayman?
Yes.
Ms. Kelly?
Yes.
Ms. Garvey?
Yes.
Mrs. Chamberlain,
Yes.
Ms. Mock,
Yes.
Ms. Chafee,
Yes.
Mr. Wiggler,
Yes.
I'm sorry,
Yes.
Mr. Nutter,
Yes.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, looking forward to the report thereafter.
Appreciate your time, and if anybody's available September 13th and 14th and wants to join, please send me an email. You're more than welcome.
Okay. Back on the agenda,
Sounds like a good thing for the kids.
administrative report, superintendent of schools.
So tonight, I'm going to highlight for you, I kind of repeat some of my things, so I'm just going to highlight for you the really most important things. So in April, the school committee will have to vote. Air Shirley has been accepted into the CAPS collaborative, but then each of the member districts also have to accept them in. So I'm just giving you a heads up on that. Also, our Champions program that runs our after-school programs, they do not have enough interest for middle school after-school programming next year. They did it for us this year. They only had 5 students on average. So they've notified families and they will try to see if they can rally some up again for the following year, but they're not going to be able to provide that service for us at the middle school next year. Our last time I talked about our academic success and our recovery sessions, those are underway. And I have 2 things just to really notify you of. One is that Miss St. George, Principal St. George, who is online, is undergoing some surgery this month. She is going to be out. And so I just want to let you know that Mrs. Musnicki has agreed to serve as building administrator in her absence. It will be during MCAS and some other important things. So we are super grateful to Sue for doing that for us. And I also want to let the committee know that Mr. Devine, our Director of Guidance for External Partnerships, has decided to resign this year. Retire, I'm sorry, not resign, retire. Retire. So we should be happy for him, but it will be a great loss to the district. And he's been here a very long time. And, I think Isabel's comment about being called down just a short time ago, really as an 8th grader, speaks to what we all envision when we think about Mr. Devine, his warmth and his commitment to students. And we are sure going to miss him and hope that he stays a part of our organization.
Take lessons from Sue Musnicki.
Right, that's right.
Run an MCAS.
Congratulations, Craig. Carrie is not here tonight. She was super sick today and I had to send her home because as the day went on, she started sounding worse and worse. But a couple things to note in her section of the report is that scheduling is underway. So our rising 9th to 12th graders are all engaging in course selection. And also, this is very exciting, but we have a speaker, Lynn Lyons. She's very well known. She is going to come and present to our teachers, our community, and our parents on really cell phone use for students. Her message is really powerful. She's got a podcast. If you want to listen to it, and you'll all receive an invitation to attend that night. But if you can help us spread the word to families and parents, it's a really important topic about the impact of cell phone use and screen time in particular.
Is she former or Unum?
She is an expert on the impact of the use of cell phones in regards to mental health, and has really, I would say she's against them, but she also recognizes that they're part of our world. And so how do we teach our students and our children to use them with caution, right? So that's really what she's about. But there is a podcast. We put it on there if you want to listen to her. She's very entertaining.
Mark and then Dave.
I mentioned to Dr. Bell before something about cell phone policy. I've been approached by three parents, number of parents that basically think that cell phone use in schools is out of control. Bottom line is, I think it probably, we should take a look at the policy, maybe under policy and procedures at some point. But now I don't have to bring it up under school committee concerns, but I totally believe that, people can say it's not a problem, but we all know it really is. So the fact of the matter is, I subbed for 4.5 years out in another school district, and that was one of my biggest concerns. And when I went to the superintendent and said, listen, this is ridiculous, right? They basically said, well, the parents would be the first ones to object. Well, maybe that's changed since the pandemic, and some of the concerns and the bullying and everything else that's involved. So just totally support.
But we have that on the October agenda for review and report.
We sure could. I will just let you know, Mr. Wiggler and others, that this is a very relevant topic. Our middle high school administrative team and the district admin team have been in discussions about this for honestly since the start of this year, because we did receive a cell phone grant. We received it late for Lynn Lyons out of that cell phone grant, but we are talking about, they have surveyed teachers. They're doing some work to see how we can move forward so that we could come to policy, perhaps a draft of what will serve Quabbin best.
Yeah, and if you have an article or something by this Lynn Lyons that you could send to us in the packet before that meeting, that would be good.
Sure.
I got Chuck, Dave, and then Lee.
I want to go back just a minute, Colleen, if I could, to your report. I have a question. I had an inquiry, constituent inquired about a potential recovery program, and I see it listed here, academic success and recovery. How does that work and when?
So right now we're running a 5-week program, and it is offered on Saturday mornings and to one group of students. So what the middle high school administrative team was, they went through students who were at risk at this point in the year of potentially not earning credit for their courses. And we thought, how do we intervene early rather than waiting for summer and having to do summer full credit recovery? Could we work with them where they're at in their classes and their programs to help them boost their grades now to try and avoid failure? So their students were sort of put into 2 different categories. So we have some students who attend on Saturday. I think we have over 20 students on Saturdays. And then we also have another session Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday afternoons. We provide transportation for students who need it. And we've had a lot of our teachers who we are super thankful for step up to teach those classes. Shannon Harris, I don't know if she's still on there, but she's one of our counselors on Saturdays. And I think overall, it's going well. I've had the opportunity to talk to a lot of the kids about it and if it's helping them. And, really ask them what's sort of getting in the way with them being successful. And I think one of the benefits of this program are the small class sizes that students who may fear asking questions or, seeking help. The small class size lessens that anxiety for them. And that has been really tremendously helpful.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks for asking.
Flipping back just to the cell phones, which I guess would have been a topical pun 30 years ago.
I know.
We got it.
Thank you. I was hoping somebody would get it. We have 2 students here. I'm curious to hear thoughts.
You can go first.
Okay. I think on the cell phones, it's a complicated topic because as with kind of the upperclassmen, they've been used to having their cell phones in class. Of course, most people seem to say, well, it's up to the teachers. The teachers have to be the ones to regulate it. We have teachers who heavily regulate it in their classrooms, and then we have teachers who don't. So there's there's, in a way, mixed messages to students. They know in these classes, they can't do it, in these classes, they can. And I think the bottom line is it's kind of, well, you can't really tell a senior now, we're going to take your phone away, and then they're going to be okay with that. I think going forward, telling a seventh grader and eighth grader that is a lot more easier than having to tell a current junior or senior to do that.
I agree with what Nick was saying about, especially in terms of like, I think it would be hard telling seniors now, like you've been able to use your phone for all 6 years you've been here, and not for your last 3 months, we're gonna take it away. But I think I notice it more because like in upperclassmen or like AP classes, I mean, kids might have their phone on their desk, they might check it every once in a while, but it's not that they're on it as much as when like if I go in to tutor a class, they might like all be on their phones. So I think I don't necessarily understand the extent of the problem in my situation, but I do think it's something that could be beneficial if we implemented it younger, like while the kids, like I got a cell phone in 7th grade. And I think I would have been glued to it if I had like, I guess, I don't know, I wasn't. I think for middle school, it would definitely be beneficial, and I could see even for underclassmen, but I'm not sure about upperclassmen simply because they're more used to them. But I'm not sure. I definitely would be interested in what Lynn Lyons would say about it if she speaks more to like younger students or older ones, because I think there's definitely like a divide. I don't know. I think I'd have to think about that more. I also have 2 teacher parents who would strongly agree that we don't need them in classrooms. I'd have to think about that, I think.
Her messaging, to be honest with you, is very much to parents that we need to gain control of it when the students are younger. For sure, that is a strong part of her message. So I hope we get a lot of parents to come and attend.
Just send me a notice. Just send me out to parents.
Sure, that,
Might want to CC us.
yeah.
We will.
I think, Mr. Clark, you're up.
We recently completed some dam maintenance that the DEP requires to keep the inlet side of the dam itself, where all the catch basins and everything else filter into the inlet side of the dam and then into the retention pond itself needs to be cleaned and clear of debris and vegetation. Been trying to get that done over the last few years. We were able to accomplish that last Saturday and Monday. That's all cleared out. All vegetation's been removed and removed off site. Now we're in compliance with what the DEP requires on that side of it. And that's about all I have.
All right, Mr. Walsh.
So the copy of contracts were awarded this week. We were actually working to the same vendor we have now, so they were able to cool off the installation until break. So
We get it, anybody?
Andrew, you sound very robotic.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Is he sick?
No. Wasn't sick when he left.
Yeah.
Is that better?
That's much better. Thank you.
So the copier contract was awarded. We ended up awarding it to the same vendor we have now. So they're going to extend our existing contract until the middle of April rather than the 1st of April. This way we can replace the copiers without interrupting the teachers' use of them. We have finished our civil rights reporting to the federal government. That was on March 11th, and SIMS is currently underway, and it looks like we'll be finished on time before the end of the month. Our internet service, our wireless and firewall support contracts all are out to bid right now through the SEC's E-rate program. Those have to stay open until the 22nd and then must be awarded by the 27th. We've only gotten 2 bids so far on all the services. I do think we'll get filled, but it probably will not happen until the 21st. MCAS is coming up at the end of March for the high school and will be running through April and into May for the elementary schools. because we are still down a full-time tech, in order to staff all the elementary schools for MCAS, we're going to have to pull staffing out of the high school and central office entirely during the MCAS testing. We have been lucky enough to have a current college student who comes in and covers 2 days a week for us to fill that missing tech, but they are expected to graduate in May, and I expect they will be looking for full-time employment after that. So we'll probably end up losing that person in the end of May, early June, I imagine. Which is going to stretch my department even thinner than it currently is. But we did manage to close 231 support tickets since our last meeting for a total of 2,137 since the start of the year.
Thank you. Cheryl?
We had an audit at the end of February from our new audit firm, Markham LLP, who recently purchased both Powers and Sullivan, who have been our auditors for a number of years, and Melanson and Heath, another local auditing firm. It seemed to go okay. The 12-year-old that was doing the audit kind of had like Stacy tried to help him through the report, but we'll see what he has to write up and when we get his report. We always seem to get the ones right out of middle school. I have for you a list of the public procurements. I worked on 6 different procurements last week alone. Mr. Walsh talked about the copiers. I have for you the bids in the drive. We're going back with the Xerox, and 0 increase in cost. We're very happy about that and happy that when we met with them today, they will extend our current lease so that we can do it on April 3rd. We issued an IFB to repair the middle school basketball hoop winches and safety straps. Did I jump the gun in having it awarded, Kevin? I didn't hear back to you. It's all set? It's all set? Okay, so we will be awarding to AOT and Associates. You can see the price difference. We had a company come in and take a look at it. They were the first company listed there. They said 42 at the time. Their bid came in at 44, and the next one was $16,000. The last one will be deemed non-responsive to our request. They wanted to tell us how they were going to do the project. We have 3 procurements out that are all being opened on March 27th. The excavation services for our free building, and also the concrete foundation and floor for that free building are both due on March 27th. We also have an RFP for the engineering services for the feasibility study on the press box and bleacher system due that day. Later on the agenda, you'll see there's something there. I would like the committee to have a discussion on whether they would want to set a limit for how much we want to spend on this engineering study, so that when we get together and look at the RFP, we can make some determinations right there at the table. I also would like to request a school committee member, and I'm hoping Mr. Nutter can hear me clearly over there.
Okay.
To sit on the RFP review committee, because this is an RFP. We don't open this in public. We get together, we go through the qualifications of the engineering firm. Only one has reached out to us since the public release of this document. I've talked with our broker about our electricity contract that will be up in November. He's starting the process with us now on that. It looks, by looking at where electricity has been over the last 12 months, that we will probably see an increase, but not that great as if you had gone out to bid last year or the year before. And we're beginning talks on the FY26 oil bid. I am going to participate in the French River discussion, because what I've heard is that the Commonwealth is starting to have discussions about not allowing public entities to have straight out heating oil anymore and going more to the biofuel. I said, well, they better have some money that we can turn over all of our plants, because that's going to cost some money. So we have a meeting next week. Kevin's going to join me on the call. We'll see what they're talking about, and we might decide to go back to French River for FY26. There were no new grants since the last month's grant report, but they are listed there for you. And warrants since our last school committee meeting. By weekly payroll 17, 18, and 19. Weekly payroll 33, 34, 35, 36, 37. Accounts payable has been busier, 58A, 60A, 61B, 62H, 63A, 64B, 65FR, 66FO, 57FQ, and 68B. That's all I have for now.
And then any school committee member that's interested to work with Cheryl, please reach out to Cheryl.
Greg?
Okay, we will
There's a couple of things in there where I put links in there to give you more information, but really briefly, we're gonna have a college fair on May 6th. Working with the New England Association of College Admission Counselors. We're again gonna do Credit for Life on April 10th. That's something we've always done with Country Bank, as well as the state helps fund some of that. Once again, we're gonna be offering virtual high school courses in the areas of STEM for AP courses. To our students for next year. That's something that's sponsored by the state, and there's a link there for VHS. You can find out about that. And lastly, continue our work with our innovation pathways. We had our career job fair this past month. We're working on developing internships for our kids. And on March 21st, we will be hosting a meeting right in this room with our business and career partners to discuss potential internship opportunities for our students. And I just want to extend an invitation to all the school committee and to members. If you want to attend that, just let me know. You're welcome to be there. We'd love to have you. Thank you.
John.
So just to give you an update on some of the things that we've been doing relevant to speech services, we actually do have still a vacant position, and we have just had somebody go out on maternity leave. So we had hired somebody, I think I reported off, that was supposed to start at the end of February, and that hire did not actually work out. So we reposted the position. I've been in contact with a couple of different vendors in the area, and also a virtual service that are actually trying to help us to set up services to cover for the maternity leave and also the vacant position. Now, some nice things is that those three vendors are all have something part-time that they can help us out with in the meantime. But we do also have two new candidates, and we have interviews at the beginning of next week for the vacant position. And also, I'm pleased to report that we have recently hired a new SOAR teacher. The person hasn't started yet. We suspect or hope that the person will start beginning of April. And she does have quite a bit of experience, and I'm hoping she'll be a nice fit for that classroom. The new Braintree postgrad program, I had reported off some time ago, and I think Greg had as well, that we had a parent meeting a couple of months back. And that meeting actually went very well. We got a promise to keep on doing that. We do have another meeting coming up with the parents at the end of March, on the 28th at 5 o'clock at New Braintree. And also, I was recently informed by the CPAC that they are starting to work on an above and beyond, essentially recognition for staff that have been working with kids that have IEPs in the district. And they're hoping to have that celebration working towards a date.
And the last part of the report is Mr. Myville is sharing out some of the athletics. We had a really successful winter season. You'll see our girls there with their coaches. They made it all the way to state playoff game down in East Bridgewater, which if anyone made the trip, it was a really long ride down, but not a bad ride back. And we also offered the cheerleader, we have a cheerleading program, so they went down, they had some extra seats on the bus, so we offered those seats to fans, and we had some students take us up on that. And also you'll see some photos of our wrestlers there. So they're in a bit of a breathing pattern right now till Monday, and then spring sports start right back up.
Good. Thank you. Teacher Advisory Council?
We don't have anyone here.
So no one here, no attendance, no report. Okay. Subcommittee reports. Administrative review. Audit. Budget.
Yeah, I just have a couple comments. We've had, 3 budget meetings. And the public hearing, which many of you were at the other night, which was really effective, explained a lot of why our budget is in the situation that it's currently in. Cheryl did a fantastic job as usual. The proposed budget iteration number 3 was reduced to $40,061,897, which represents a 4.1% increase over the fiscal year 24 budget. Total cuts to the budget amounted to $1.4 million, $1,463,000. that has already been reduced. But when we take a look at the assessments, the operating assessments to the member communities, Berry, 8.07% increase. Hardwick, 6.84, Hubbardston, 11.98, New Braintree, 2.58, and Ocam, 5.58%. So there are some that are up there and are still, I'm sure the towns have a little bit of a concern over the increases, yet our increase was 4.1%. It's gone from 7.9% increase, 6.1% increase, or 4.1% increase as the budget that was presented the other night to the public hearing. And the administration says that they will still be looking at areas where there are potential, reductions. That's it.
Thank you. Central office.
We had a meeting, I covered a couple of things. So on your bullets, you've got we'll skip the first one. We go to the continued discussion naming facilities. We had an inquiry regarding naming from members of the public. I know we switched it over to policy review, but we figured let's address this because it originally came to my subcommittee way back when. And it turned out we were able to address the public interest without even having them come to the meeting. So there's no issue there. Nothing has come up. Essentially what we said was school committee voted to revisit this at the subcommittee level in October. And that's the message that's going out there. However, also, since we were on that issue and had some discussion, I would like to make a motion. Hoping to wait for Dick here.
This way, yeah. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Dick. You're welcome.
So Dr. Allen, I was saying that in my subcommittee meeting at central office today, we sort of handled a query regarding the naming policy and the timeline, et cetera, and all that. When we decided to handle it because eventually your subcommittee's not meeting, but what we put out there was that we're going to meet in October and discuss it then. So that one's done. However, we discussed further the naming, and I want to put out a motion for the full committee. So my motion is this: the school committee.
Can you put it in?
Yep. Says this. Big elephants blank always use small elephants.
Well, we have to practice again. Put it in?
Aaron, can you mute yourself?
The school committee places a moratorium on any type of namings, memorials, commemorations, or the like, comma, on all buildings, comma, parts of buildings, comma, grounds, and all other elements under the control of the district, comma, until such time that the school committee has, comma, in place, comma, a new / revised naming policy for the district.
Second.
Further discussion.
So part of this is,
It gets us to October.
well, not only that, but just recently, there was sort of a commemoration on one of our school grounds without kind of anybody really knowing about it. So I guess this stuff is still going on and we need to get a handle on it. So I think our initial handle should be, let's not do anything until the subcommittee meets and comes forward to the full committee. Now, when we spoke last at the full committee, I had some reservations regarding when we talked about the elementaries, because obviously we have more control over the middle high school building. And looking over the lease, under lease premises, the lessee, which is us, are given the lands together with the buildings and other improvements to control. So we have that control there. And under a chapter that says, because there are no pages on this, covenant of quiet enjoyment unless there's access, we are given the ability to be peacefully and quietly enjoy the premises without disturbance from the lessor or from any other person claiming through the lessor. So pretty much, I think we have a good argument to say we have control of these buildings through the lease, so that people just can't come in and say, hey, I'm going to dedicate something, and I really don't have to speak to anybody in the school. So I'm pretty comfortable with that.
What was the dedication at an elementary?
Colleen?
It wasn't recent. It was just that we hadn't noticed it before, but at Hubbardston Center School, we were there the other day and I turned the corner differently than I had previously. And there were 2 granite benches outside of the school that I had never noticed had been there before. So I think what we talked about is there are probably far more things around than we even realize, you know?
The Joan Hall?
No, I do not believe so.
Roy Grimley? Who was the principal there?
I can't remember what they were, but they are not that old.
Oh, Grandon?
One looks like a class gift. Maybe Aaron may know, but one looked like a class gift and the other one looked like for someone who had helped to establish the school. Maybe it was a much older one.
One, the class of 99 gift, it says. And one is for a former worker who passed away, I believe, last year.
Oh.
It's not that new, but she had been there for so many years. And I believe she did pass away last year.
So anyway, that's kind of the thrust of it. And part of it, I don't want to make this part of the, and I didn't make it part of the motion, but I think to accompany the motion, maybe the summertime, or maybe we get students involved, but I think we have to go out, send people to all our school buildings and find out what we have that's commemorated or memorialized or whatever, or however many people. And maybe if a student needs a project or something, we can get some little history of who these people are, because from what I hear, at least from anecdotally, a couple of people say, oh yeah, this is there. No, nobody knows who that is. So maybe we can get a handle on how much is out there.
With John Searle.
To go forward.
Buggles Lane.
I know there are trees there. There's all kinds of stuff. But anyway, so I think that's why I'm making the motion.
Any, some question?
Yes. Mr. Willannon, would you please forward that motion over to me?
I certainly would.
Yeah.
With all the comments.
Any further discussion of school committee members? School committee members that are in Zoom? Seeing and hearing none, roll call.
Dr. Allen?
Yes.
Mr. Marsh?
Yes.
Mr. Deschamps?
Yes.
Mr. Willannon?
Yes.
Ms. Kelly?
Yes.
Ms. Garvey?
Yes.
Mrs. Chamberlain?
Yes.
Ms. Mock?
Yes.
Ms. Chafee?
Yes.
Mr. Wiggler?
Yes.
Mr. Nutter?
Yes.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Thank you. And maybe superintendent, you can get that word out to all the principals of their schools so they kind of have knowledge. Okay, so let's go back up. So school committee protocols discussion, a vote may be required. So in your packet, you should have a draft of the operating protocols and a working draft. Now, when full committee met last month, there were a couple of questions brought up. So the subcommittee met and we made some changes, and also the administration did a couple smaller changes, which are kind of shown in the working draft. And during that meeting, which kind of lasted an hour and a half, I think, we discussed all the way through points that people had brought up. And so we went through the working draft to come to the draft, which is what we're looking at now. And so the motion will be to accept the Quabbin Regional School District School Committee operating protocols as of today, March 14th. 2024.
So moved. Is there a second? Second. Any further discussion? Dave? Okay. Any discussion? Roll call.
Dr. Allen?
Yes.
Mr. Marsh?
Yes.
Mr. Deschamps?
Yes.
Mr. Lannon?
Sure, yes.
Ms. Kelly?
Yes.
Ms. Garvey?
Yes.
Mrs. Chamberlain?
Yes.
Ms. Mock?
Yes.
Ms. Chafee?
Yes.
Mr. Wiggler?
Yes.
Mr. Nutter?
Yes.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
And so part of this is I guess I'll default to the chair of how we intend to get everybody's signature.
We'll have,
I can send it to the printer now and we can pass it around this evening.
and then anybody that's on Zoom, have them stop by the central office.
Or not just take this one and sign it.
Well, it says draft copy on
So
it.
we'll get that, yeah. Okay, thank you.
Okay, third bullet, discussion of agenda format, vote may be required. Mark, do you want to hop in on that or?
Thank you. I'll just quickly be as, nice as I can be, I promise. Again, thank you, school committee members, as we continue to learn what's effective meetings, good governance and leadership. We've had some training and we'll continue to have some further training as we work as an effective board, not only knowing our lanes, our zones, and our responsibilities. When we had a training, the protocols came up, so thank you. We now have working protocols, not just for ourselves, but new members and going forward. Makes total sense. The agenda, we want to make sure that the agendas that we have are efficient, but also time appropriate and business appropriate. I understand sometimes our meetings have been long and we have taken a lot of things on our plate. We enjoy hearing from students. We want to hear that from and what's happening. We know how important that is. But from an agenda point of view, the positions of where items are, you've seen recently how we moved the student piece up forward. There are other pieces that we will look at. Another piece that we want to look at was, when we had our training, was on the consent agenda. That we can put items in a consent and we can vote that as a group and you can take an item out. Again, about efficiency of time, but also we're also being informed. Also about agenda is, do we want to eventually look at other ways of where things are placed? And is it called school committee celebrations concerns? Those type of things? Do we move any other items along the way? Do we also possibly look at a little time block? So the minutes, meeting starts at 6:30, minutes approval, a consent agenda is 6:30 to 6:45. So we're trying to be able to look at what our business time is. We know that not only we've had some, late meetings and had a lot of stuff, we've had a crazy 4 or 5 years with COVID and everything else, not only budgets and everything else, and then policies and a lot of stuff. So it's again, with all of us, it's about the efficiency, timing, appropriateness, and I would think the ness of the committee of where it belongs. So there are a few other items that we want to look at. Am I covering everything?
Yep.
We want to look, and the subcommittee is going to keep looking at that. But again, we ourselves will continue to have professional learning ourselves with our professional associations. We have MSAC, we have the regional Mars, we have that. So there's a couple others coming up that we would like to, I know Lee may want to say something as well that's coming up. And we have a lot of you. So that's where we're looking. And again, thank you to everybody here of a committee of 15. And I know I'm just going to quickly look over at Crystal. Crystal sent me an email and I wanted her, she wanted to comment, if she'd like to comment. We have a committee of 15. We are pretty damn good at what we do. And I'm sorry that I swore. we pretty,
Damn good.
pretty damn good. And you got 15, and I think there was a word that looking at Crystal to echo. Crystal, would you share that email that you sent and where you went and?
Sure. I went to charting the course on Saturday in Chicopee, which is my hometown. And after the 8 hours, and we gain appreciation for different things, depending on where we're at. And through the conversations of the other school committees, I gained, I mean, I've been in Hardwick for 20 years, so I may still be considered a transplant, but and you know, as I've gotten more involved in there, I've gained a real appreciation and a love for Hardwick. And the charting the course really gave me a love and appreciation for this particular school committee and the district. The questions that were coming up from other school committees and the frustration and the inward battles that people were describing just doesn't happen around this table. And for someone that has spent a year kind of sitting and observing, in my opinion, we're a model for how you discuss and communicate and agree and disagree and solve problems. And I just left feeling very thankful that I was able to be on a school committee such as this. Because the things that my counterparts in other towns are having, we don't have.
Thank you. And you used the word ego. And the egos that we don't have of our co-governance model with the superintendent. We're not here saying we're gonna override, and you made that comment. So again, back to Lee for letting me speak. So again, we're looking at, the committee wants to look further of making sure our agendas are appropriate, adjust and adapt where we need.
And timely.
And timely as well.
So the last bullet, superintendent evaluation timeline. So I think it's what, July 1st is official. We have to have the evaluation, and is that where it has to go to the state at that date?
Yes.
So that's when we do the electronic stuff. So part of our discussion, or the big part of our discussion pretty much is, should we have some sort of, we have a number of new people here. Should we have some sort of a training, essentially, you know, not to learn how to write them, just how to look, how to,
The tool.
you know, a tool to help us evaluate, because, you know, let's face it, some of these things are difficult when we get the evaluation check sheet and all that. And even though those of us who've been here many years, sometimes you kind of glaze over some of the stuff you see, because it's like, you know, let me write this in the final conclusion as opposed to writing something after, you know, each little segment there and all that. So, you know, so maybe it would be good for everybody to kind of have a little training and see maybe there's a better way to approach it than maybe. So that's what we're going to look to do, to set up some sort of training in a timely manner so that we can, you know, obviously get the superintendent's evaluation in by July.
MASC.
Well,
No, we may use Mars. We have been very good at that, as well as MASC. But also, it gives us the understanding of the overview, the responsibility, and how we use that instrument. Correct, Walter?
Yeah. That's it.
Lee, I just wanted to say thank you for taking on all these perspectives that have come up this past year. We truly appreciate your leadership along with your subcommittee members, because back in July, I didn't have anyone who signed up at that time. I know when we set up our communities, again, I need to say that publicly, for the members on that subcommittee, thank you, and Lee for taking it, because it's been a lot.
It's something to think about when swimming.
That's temperature.
Right. Yes, besides the water, it's better.
Collective bargaining,
Nothing at this time.
buildings, grounds, and safety,
Nothing from us.
policy review and reform,
October 1st, Monday.
student services. Meg, Okay.
not here,
Okay.
we haven't had it.
No.
Okay. Technology. What? Okay. Ad hoc school district configuration?
No, we haven't had any meetings, but there's been some discussion of, I think, sort of a next step. You know, the lease is going to be coming up. We know that the development agreement references to the census of 2010 in that agreement. So we're already a census, 10-year census behind, and kind of when we redid the whole thing, or it's either stated in there or the thrust was like, right, every 10 years when there's a new census, sort of reconfigure and revisit. So two of those, I was looking at both the lease and the regional agreement, because the lease was done before the new regional agreement, or the latest regional agreement came out, the references of the lease to the regional agreement are incorrect. So it could be up in a year and a half. So I guess at some point, whether we want to do it through the ad hoc committee, if you wanted to set up another ad hoc, however, but I think at some point reasonably soon, because these things aren't.
Thank you, Lee. And just like that, I mean, I know we'll get like an hour meeting to deal with the superintendent evaluation, but then you can think maybe in early summer, we can do another professional opportunity for ourselves to understand the regional agreement, to be able to have a facilitator to go through it with us, because then we not only have to look at potential leases and everything else, because when you potentially open that agreement, you need 5 towns, as we did in 2014. You have the present agreement of 2014, and prior to that, it was what, 1983?
85.
85. So 85, 2014. So again, being new members and all of us, we can have a walk through ourselves, which makes sense. Committee support something like that? Good. Thank you, Lee. Unfinished business, none. Any public comment? School committee concerns. Dr. Allen.
Yeah, this has been a busy time and an interesting time. Last Thursday. Dave was there. Chris Heron was here. Drug addict. Fall River kid. Thrown out of Boston College, went through Jerry the Slime Tarkanian in Fresno State, played for Denver, played for the Celtics. I saw him play for the Celtics overseas, but he was bad. He had and he comes in and talks to kids and talks to parents. I helped sponsor when he was here. Martin Streb was the one that came to me 11 years ago.
Right.
When he came and talked. And he does a great job. You were there, Nick? Were you there?
I went Thursday during the day.
During the day, yeah. I thought he did a great job. And I think having him come and as real as he is, really is important. I mean, don't you think he really gets the message across? He just does a great job. I think this was very important for our school. There's pictures of the girls' basketball. Didn't they do well? His sister has a scholarship now. But the boys, I think are not to be overlooked. The whole senior class on the boys' team is sitting right there. You know, they were a bunch of younger kids, but they're coming along. But there's a lot of teaching going on and learning to work together, and the things that are more important than did you get one more hoop than the other guy. So kudos to the girls' team. They did a great job, but the boys' team did too. They don't have a record that shows that, but from what I could see of the learning and the camaraderie and the interaction and start of the season, I go in, I see Nick, and there's this little kid about this tall, what is it, 8th grader doing some of the kids, their grades weren't up to snuff. What's the kid's name? You know the kid I mean. Little curly-haired kid.
Oh, the 8th grader? Yeah, Brady.
What's his name?
Brady.
Brady, okay. So they're in there working with their colleagues on the team. to tutor them to get them up so they can pass. Now, this doesn't happen by accident. It doesn't. It's just a very good thing. Last night I was at the instrumental music program. The instrumentals, there were 200 kids there, just about. And a few nights earlier than that was vocal. There were about 200 kids there. I mean, what a wonderful thing. You think about the sports we saw in Mark Monville. He was saying there's, what do you have for numbers? 180 or something like that. And then we had all kids doing things, not just sitting there, not just flippity blopping on their phones, but getting out and doing something. The wonderful stuff that Isabella was talking about, which I claim is civics, really. And then the athletics and all of that. And just an interesting anecdote. I was in Chelsea a week or two ago. I had a friend who's Colleen met her. She's a professor at Jackson State in Mississippi. And they were staying, it's a traditionally black college. And she and her husband, who played for the Cleveland Browns, as a matter of fact, before he was in the Army. They were in a hotel, and we picked them up, and there was a Rotary Club meeting. And they had asked her to speak. And so she asked me, to sit in while she was talking. And lo and behold, there was this fellow there. Said, "Oh, I know you. You're Dr. Allen. I was in your office at the meeting down at MASC on the Cape." So he had met a bunch of us.
Oh, I remember him.
The black guy from Chelsea.
From Chelsea.
I have his card.
I met him too. Yeah, Walter was there.
I have his card in my pocket.
Yeah.
Yeah, nice young guy, very personable, and it was kind of interesting. So those were the comments that I had.
Okay. Anyone else for school committee concern? Hearing none. New business? We'll go, okay, the guidepost safety report, I don't think we need to deal with the expense of, but I know the superintendent was going to give an outline to it, I think, or an
Yep,
understanding.
I think Jess is gonna share it on the screen with you, so, okay, great.
As soon as I can get it.
So just to sort of give you an update of where we've been and where we are with school and district safety. So since the beginning of September, we've actually formed 2 different safety teams. So we have a safety team meeting with our local police and fire departments. At the beginning of the year, we met once a month. We're now down to sort of bi-monthly meetings. And some of the things that have come out of that is they've helped us to, we've trained all staff on threat assessment. This came from Guidepost Solutions. So they gave us some materials, and our teams have trained all of our staff on threat assessment. We've also done ALICE training for all of our staff. With the support of the local police and fire, we've done Stop the Bleed training. And I have to tell you, we couldn't have done this by ourselves. So that's really about how to place a tourniquet, how to stop bleeding should there be an emergency situation. They've been super responsive to our feedback. So first we did it with the middle high school, and the feedback was like, ew. It was a lot. So the second time they did that, they toned that down. We have this also scheduled to happen with our elementary staff. We've had AED training. We've had some hands-on CPR training to small groups of our staff. We have created threat assessment documents and a process to follow for our building-based school safety teams. We've reviewed our safety audit and identified our greatest needs. We've scheduled safety drills throughout the year. We held our first one at central office. It truly was a surprise. Even I didn't know when it was happening. And we held a parent safety informational session. We also have been doing a district safety meeting. We ran monthly meetings from September to November. I think I have these actually out of order, so I apologize. the first group included our teachers and our staff. I was misspeaking. So those were monthly, and now they've moved to building-based teams. And we've also had the fire and police meetings. So together, we've been collaboratively addressing any areas of concern, trying to be proactive in identifying measures to support should we have an emergency event. We've provided them with access codes, maps of the buildings to make them coming on site easier for them. We also have, with their help, identified additional materials and replacement materials for our go bags. These are, I don't know if we have one here, but yellow bags that we have in all of our classrooms should we have an emergency that our staff can take with them. And there's the Stop the Bleed training. We've also done flip charts, which just has a sample of, so we used to have these before. And so they've been updated. We can pass those around to you.
Each one has a map too. that
Each
goes
of
with
them
this.
will have a map of the building of wherever the flip charts are for. I delivered OCAM Center Schools today. And so things we're still working on. So at our next meeting, all of the towns are going to bring their emergency response plans to us so we can just make sure that we are all on the same page. You know, one thing we think about is if there were ever an emergency, really in any one of our schools, that they would be leaning on one another to come respond to that emergency. So it's really important that even the OCAM response teams understand what would happen if we had an emergency at Ruggles Lane, because they would likely be on site with us. We are also in partnership with the fire departments and police departments looking at a training called the LEAD program. This is around substance prevention. It's geared for our younger students. It's a little bit like the DARE program, except that they have proven results that are positive. We received our safety audit in the fall of 2023, and some of the actions that we've taken are to refresh all of those go bags and make sure that all of our teachers and staff have the updated materials, that they've had training on them. And we've identified a common location for all of them to hang. So our go bags are supposed to be placed. I would say we're not there yet, but we hope to be in a week or so, behind classroom doors or office doors, so that if I'm a sub or I'm in a different classroom than normal, I know exactly where to find that go bag. The flip charts are going to be placed in all rooms above the phones. The safety trainings have been implemented, including the evacuation drills. We are currently, one of the recommendations that came out of the safety audit report was to think about implementing vape sensors. And the rationale around that was that if students are vaping in the bathroom, that's a common area where kids begin to talk, and it could be a concern in raising up this idea of bullying or threat assessments, right? So kids are together, they might be more likely to engage in some behaviors that would contribute to bullying, if you will. We've been piloting those. We have one in the middle school bathroom, and we also have another one in the high school bathroom. Mr. Gilmartin is not here tonight, but I can tell you that recently at the last safety meeting, we asked, how are those working out? And some of the positives that I felt were pretty strong was this idea that if kids are typically grouped in a bathroom previously, prior to having the vape sensors, they might stay there while other kids vaped. Now they're worried about getting in trouble. And so those students are leaving. And also we're seeing that if some of our middle schoolers are experimenting, if you will, right? That we're trying to get to them sooner so that they're using it as a proactive measure to try and educate and work with the students. I don't know if Nick and Isabel have any insights or thoughts on this, but I'll ask them.
I think when kids first heard about it, I think they were only skeptical because they couldn't see them. And there was speculation on if they were in the vents, if they were in the walls. And I was like, I don't know. I haven't heard too much about, I think once students realized how they worked, they became more, I'm gonna say, I guess I would say they would aware of themselves and their actions and how their actions affect those around them. I think kids are definitely more cautious with them in there, but I think they also don't necessarily know about them. Like I didn't even know if they had been implemented because I just haven't seen them. I'm not even sure where they are, and I think a lot of kids don't know where they are. So I think, I don't know, I think I'm not gonna say the threat of it is enough to steer kids away from it, but I guess that is what I'm saying. Do you have anything?
Is it in one bathroom in the high school? Or is it
Now we're
in-
like I feel like maybe I shouldn't say.
All of them?
Well, only because I think one of the kind of concerns, if it's only in one bathroom, then the kids are gonna go into another bathroom.
Right.
And the other hard part is with kids, they're gonna try to find some sort of workaround around them. With any preventative measure, they're gonna try to find some sort of workaround. Is kind of the whole fear with us implementing all of these. That's just my thoughts on that.
Yeah, no, you guys are just wise beyond your years. But that is a real thing and that is, what we're sort of working with. But the idea of the vape sensors is really around, trying to be proactive, getting to students before it becomes an addiction for them. So that's what we're working on. We'll give you more information. Like I said, we're just piloting these at the moment. We also have been piloting a entry system over at Ruggles Lane. We talked about this previously, but it's where it's on an iPad, you sign in, any visitor sign in, you identify what you're there for. It prints out, it actually takes a picture and it prints out a badge. And then, so if any of you have been in our schools, you've in
there we
Ruggles
go.
Lane. Oh, there you go. There it is. It's not always the best picture.
I posed for it, and then when other people were looking, they were saying, oh, did they catch you, the wrong way? I said, no, it's my pose.
And so that particular system, we're not using it to its fullest extent. You can also scan a license and it'll give you a immediate Corey printout. I think what we're finding with this system though is because we have them inside the buildings, it's almost too late that if we had a concern, we already kind of have someone in the building. So more to come on that, but I think we are very optimistic around the vape sensors and we are cautious around this visitor system is what it's called. The things that we're still working on is we worked with our safety teams and I'm sure Kevin may want to elaborate on this a little bit more, but for us, we've identified that our largest, biggest priority is really trying to get a lock and camera system that is integrated. However, it's really costly. So we are going to seek grant funding. I actually had a parent reach out to me who works for a city that has written these grants before. And she said, I am keeping my eye out. I know exactly which grant will help Quabbin be able to do this. So we're hopeful, that maybe some of those grants will be available. We also have identified a real challenge that we have in, and again, Kevin, jump in at any time, but we've got keys sort of everywhere. And we need to have a better system and structure to control access for folks who have badges that may have badges for a period. One thing that came up was simply sports, right? So we have coaches who come in for a certain season. Do we turn those badges off? What's a system we can put in place to make sure that's happening? So we actually have a meeting scheduled to talk about creating some of these systems and structures. And then the other thing I'm just going to bring up, seeing cell phone usage has been a topic of conversation tonight, is something that we're paying attention to is this idea of the impact of social media during the day on students, on their mental health, and this idea of bullying and that relationship to this possible idea of threat. If a student becomes upset and angry, then they may be more likely to have make a threat to the school or the learning community. So that is another reason why we're so carefully looking at cell phone usage. Any questions or anything you want to add?
We're just going through existing policies and how things have done in the past and trying to streamline things and tighten things up where they may have gotten, I guess, a little loose in the past, whether it's with key structure or access badges or cameras themselves. The cameras in the high school we can access remotely, but all the camera systems, or partial camera systems, should I say, in the elementary schools, we actually have no access to. A lot of those were put in by either police department grants or stuff in the past and are partially working and can be viewed from the actual school itself, but nobody can see it from here or work on it. So we're trying to integrate everything where we can. The ultimate goal is to get systems that are universal, that are all together, that can be accessed completely from here or from wherever we are, whether it's the door locks, whether it's the camera systems, et cetera, and have the door locks and the tamper switches on door locks, et cetera, all filter in with the camera system so everything's together, so it's a universal system. That's what our ultimate goal is.
Right. I just wanted to make a couple of comments. I asked the superintendent to be able to put an outline on this, and I wasn't sure if a vote was needed, and a vote is not needed because the audit and a report was done internally for us. And it was shared briefly in the fall with the buildings, grounds and safety. So anything will continue to go through them as well. But also very important, Dave, that there's going to be financial as the administration continues to move forward to make sure everything is safe and appropriate. There'll be financial implications, there'll be policy implications, and there'll be technology implications. So I thought it was pertinent for all of us to hear what's happening and everything else. And then for us as a committee to support the administration's efforts and forwardness on what they were doing. So we don't need a vote on the report. And the outline was phenomenal and the continuing steps, because the report was some considerations and maybe not all considerations are going to be used or whatever. And then you mentioned grants and things like that. There's cost to these things. So I just want to say to the superintendent publicly again, the kudos to the efforts, the work on this, and the subcommittee to continue to work on this and get whatever needs to happen, and as we're fully informed, because you do have the support of not only the subcommittee, but I think the full committee. Does that make sense?
And I just want to say, I am not doing this alone. So
Exactly.
we have, I can't thank Kevin enough and Shelley St. George. They're both sort of spear up the school safety projects. And I just want to take a moment to ask our administrators if there's anything they want to comment on. One more thing that we've done in all of the schools, with the exception of OCAM, is we've put keypad entries like you see when you go into central office now. The reason we haven't done it at OCAM is because they're the only school that doesn't sort of have this window access to see who approaches. And they don't have a line of sight to that door. So they were concerned that you could have a student standing outside that locked door and not even know they're there. So that's something we're gonna problem solve and think about over the summer so that we can implement one there as well. But I don't know if any of the principals who are living this every day have anything that they want to add. And if not, it's perfectly fine, but you're more than welcome to.
Chris?
Yeah, I think we kind of touched on it, but the pilot system through Verkada that we're using for the digital sign-in, it's kind of neat. It's actually made everything pretty smooth. And I think that the people that have entered the building, and I know Lee kind of experienced it a little bit too, was The system is great because it kind of acknowledges and recognizes your phone number from time to time. So then it makes signing in a lot easier and more efficient the next time you come in the building. But I think for us, where we have a lot of staff floating around, and since we've taken on the partnership where we have CAPS Collaborative in the building, we have a lot of staff that have been in and out and maybe not as identifiable as others and don't always have a Quabbin badge. So I think for us, where it prints out that picture and kind of label of who you are and what your business is within our school has been hugely successful. And I think also one step that sometimes is maybe missed by guests is the signing out process. And through the pilot program that we are using, I see Lee nodding his head. So he knows, so like once you sign in with your, you can do it through your cell phone. You can actually sign out through your cell phone as well. So as you're passing through or you're walking through the parking lot to go to your car, you can sign out and it kind of tracks all of those times. And I think as an administrator going on and having access through the Verkada site, you can go in very quickly and just say, hey, here are the people that have been in and out of the building during the day. And I think at the same time, rather than grabbing a lot of clipboards and binders, in the case of an emergency, if we had that device on us, or even through my phone, I can take a look at those individuals that would still be identified as being in the building so that we could account for everybody in case we had to sort of evacuate. So there's been a lot of great advantages to it. And I think, as the superintendent said, we may have just we're touching sort of the tip of the iceberg on this, but I think that there's a lot that there is to sort of offer, but our experience with it so far has been really great.
That whole thing is a learning experience. I was in there, it was like the first week and I walked in the door and it's like, everybody's like, oh, Lee, come here. I thought, wow, it's great. School committee person walks in, they're all excited. And it was like, yeah, you can try this ID. And then they dissed my picture. But yeah, and the sign out was the a problem on the first week was somebody had to walk you through the whole process. I mean, once you do the process, it was easy. Or even when I was leaving, it was like, wait, you got to sign out. You go in and sign out. So once the process was known, which I'm sure now a month later it is, I think it's a great thing.
If any school committee member would like Lee's picture, I'll forward it to you. Just send me an email on the side. Okay.
Thanks.
Anyone else?
I would just like to say, I think that we've done a lot of work over this past year in the area of safety and security of the building. I think that staff appreciate the work that we've done. I think they feel a lot safer knowing that there are things that we've put in place to enhance the safety of our buildings. They're more alert, they're more aware. I know that anything that they see that's out of the ordinary, they alert the office right away. And they feel comfortable having those protocols in place. So I know that they appreciate all of the professional development and trainings that we've done over this past year. So I think that's a real positive step in the right direction for us.
Thank you. Deb?
I just wanted to say, biggest thing we always are concerned with first is safety. And we've talked a lot of the topics tonight. And we did through the subcommittee, the ad hoc, get to view the camera system and in the high school. And I mean, it is a great system and it would be phenomenal to be able to have that capacity, through these grants and everything. So I appreciate that work that's being done along with like the door locking, because it's so important, to be working towards that so that we can keep our students and everyone safe. And then I think the cell phone thing is also part of the safety. It's part of their mental health, it's part of their physical health. But technology can do a lot of wonderful things. So I think teaching them to have that healthy relationship with the cell phones as well is, really important for their health. So I really appreciate all the work that's being done, on these measures to move this forward. Because it really is, when you see actually the cameras and how Kevin could and his staff work them, and, it really did make me feel better that our students are safe. It does. So thank you for that.
And the whole thing is constantly evolving. I mean, we've been working on this all year, but you all of a sudden think you've got everything kind of under control, and then you realize you missed something else, or something else that's changed, and we're trying to figure out how to, work with that. But the relationships that we've built with the police departments and fire departments have honestly been invaluable and taken leaps and bounds. So we've gone over and addressed a lot of things, concerns they've had, and vice versa, by giving them obviously universal access for each of the cruisers or fire department vehicles where their badges can immediately click any lock in any of the schools or any of the doors, whether they're from Hardwick or Hubbardston or Ocam. So they don't have to wait to get access, so they can enter right away. We gave them flash drives with all of base building blueprints, so they can utilize those in cruises or in vehicles outside the building, so they kind of have an idea of what the layout is prior to going in and what they need to do. The flash drives also have emergency contact numbers for the key people for each building. So it's just little steps like that that we've been taking and putting in place that are starting to make things come together.
And I like that you've incorporated all 5 towns with each other, because there are, I actually worked at the Hubbardston Police for 11 years, so I know kind of that end of it too, and they don't see a lot of these types of situations and they train for them, but having that real information right at their fingertips is so crucial in an emergency that now they won't have to think about that.
We all
Am I
know
gonna
that-
get in, or, oh, I've never been over to Ocam, what's that school like, or, it's.
We all know that if something really, they're all gonna come to towns for support.
Yeah.
In order for that, certain person who might not even been in that school, at least they have some blueprint to use before they enter or have some sort of background.
Thank you.
Mrs. Mohan, Mr. Clark, I assume you guys are on the emails from schoolsafety.com.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, because they have a training on 26 about grants.
Yeah.
My other thing is, I'm glad to see that you got a threat assessment situation you're working on. What's the situation on a 24/7 hotline for reporting threats?
So we do have a way for people to report threats. I don't know if Shelley or Andrew want to talk about this. If Andrew's still there. And if there is a threat reported, then we get notification of that. There we go.
So yes, I can talk a bit about that. So we do have a threat reporting process in place. We have QR codes that students or parents can use to access and report a threat. They can call the school, report that. They can do that in person, by phone, or using the QR code. When we receive a threat, that will go directly to the administrators so that we're able to follow up and investigate that threat and then determine next steps. So we have a threat assessment team in each of our schools. So when we receive an initial threat, we convene a triage team within our threat assessment team, which consists typically of the administrator. It could be usually the guidance counselor and another member of the team to determine what type of threat it is. If it is a threat that can be handled within the school, we can take those measures. And if it's an imminent serious threat, we can alert police and have them come to help support and assemble the entire team to help mitigate the threat and put steps in place to try to eliminate that threat.
And if there's a threat at, say, 3 o'clock in the morning or something, is somebody available to respond to that? And not all threats are going to happen during school day or normal waking hours,
Right.
I think.
I think those are some of the conversations that we continue to have, is the monitoring of those threats during the school hours. We do have access to that information, and we are able to support and respond to those threats. We do have to continue to have those ongoing conversations about what happens if we do receive a threat at 3 a.m.
I think what we've talked about, Mr. Nutter, is like assigning administrators to sort of monitor during different timeframes. You know what I mean? so that someone would always be checking it, but I don't know that we've actually created that structure yet.
Oh, again, thank you, Superintendent, for the outline, the understanding. And again, with technology and with this Walter's group and Kevin, continue the conversations and the commitments. Thank you very much, Superintendent. Approval, next item on the approval of some Sigowich Wong Family Scholarship Fund.
I can take that, Mr. Chairman. The high school received a $5,000 check, which they would like to use as a one-time scholarship to a graduate of this class. So rather than putting it into our normal scholarship fund, which is a trust fund and everything, it's going to be quick in and quick out. But as we do, we come to the committee for approval of that gift.
So moved.
So moved. Second, further discussion?
Chooses how it gets awarded.
It's going to go through the high school guidance office like all of our other scholarships.
Seeing and hearing none. Oh,
Dr. Rout?
Yes.
Yes, okay. Mr. Marsh?
Yes.
Mr. Deschamps?
Yes.
Mr. Bolannon?
Yes.
Ms. Kelly?
Yes.
Ms. Garvey?
Yes.
Mrs. Chamberlain?
Yes.
Ms. Muck?
Yes.
Ms. Chafee?
Yes.
Mr. Wiggler?
Yes.
Mr. Nutter?
Yes.
Mr. Chairman?
yes. Thank you. Next item, a vote not to exceed budget for responses to engineering services, RFP.
So as I mentioned earlier in my report, we did issue an RFP for engineering services for the press box and the bleachers. And I think we might at some point want to roll in some lighting with that project as well. But I thought it may be worthwhile to talk to the school committee tonight because it will be open next week. As to if there's a certain level that you're going to say, okay, we're not going to pay that much for this service. If you want rather, it's because it's going to be quite a quick turnaround so that we can get it going. We'll have a review committee. It's going to be Mr. Clark and myself and Ms. Karen, and there may be, I'm hoping, Mr. Nutter and Mr. Nutter, to review the responses and go over the qualifications of the engineer. I think we know well enough that if it comes in at $100,000, we're going to say, whoa. But we only have $46,000 that has been raised for this project. Not exactly sure where the engineering costs will come from, but thought it would be worth having a discussion if you think a limit is necessary. And as I said, we only had one firm that reached out to us and said they're interested and they're looking at the RFP.
You guys have gone out and gotten estimates like this. Or spoken with people or.
Well, we have estimates of the pack and play. You buy this and you put it right in there type of thing, but we really don't have estimates of what the groundwork would be, do we, Kevin?
You do.
Okay, so let's.
So before I was here, there was actually one done with one of the firms that's interested.
Oh, yeah, but that was so long. When was it? 2019?
I believe it was 19, and there was pricing for construction back then, the groundwork and for their services.
I just think that because that was before COVID, really not a cost that we can count on.
And so you have minimum requirements for the engineers. It sounds like you need obviously an engineer or engineering company.
That we have the RFP for an engineering firm.
Okay.
Yes.
So, I mean, you guys have a handle on what it should be and what it shouldn't be.
Okay.
As far as I'm concerned, I don't see the.
That would be great.
Okay, I heard that as well. And I know that we discussed about the rural school monies too to help in this and things like that. So I would think that we can give the authorization, to go through the process. You have that. And I don't know, I got the sense.
I was a little concerned if we were using the donations towards this stuff.
Right.
No, we
Right.
did not say we were going to do that. If I remember correctly, what we talked about and what the RFP says, we'd like them to give us an idea of what it would cost if we were just to remove a section and plug and play in with this unit. Could we use that system somewhere else? Are the current bleachers even up to code and are they acceptable? Or what it would cost, an estimate to cost to take it all down and start again? Those are our three plans that we're asking for.
So I'm gonna put faith into the committee and the RP work, and then to come back to inform us, go forward on that.
Okay.
I think that's the consensus of the committee,
Yes.
so.
So, Mr. Nutter, are you available on March 28th?
20th?
28th?
Okay, think so.
What time is good for you?
All day, anytime.
9 o'clock?
9 o'clock works for me.
Thank you.
Done?
We'll meet
Okay.
then.
Stay tuned, we'll have more information. We took care of the overnight, and now we have the Decker overnight trip to Boston for state competition, March 7th and 9th. Superintendent? I know that 2 DeKalb Straits, I remember I got an email on that, spoke to, and I gave, because of the timeline piece you had, I gave the approval as we allowed in our policy, but they had to come to the full committee, with the proper provisos and everything else. Anything I missed?
Nope, that's it.
Yeah, I make a motion that we support the chairman's decision. Second.
Okay, any further comment? Roll call.
Dr. Allen,
Yes.
Mr. Marsh,
Yes.
Mr. Deschamps,
Yes.
Mr. Lannon,
Yes.
Ms. Kelly,
Yes.
Ms. Garvey,
Yes.
Mrs. Chamberlain,
Yeah.
Ms. Mock,
Yes.
Ms. Chafee,
Yes.
Mr. Wiggler,
Yes.
Mr. Nutter,
Yes.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Okay.
2 other things and we're done, but I have to do it this way. Request for executive session is none. And then adjournment, I need a motion and a second, and we need, because of Zoom and the requirements, I need to also have quick roll call for
So
adjournment.
moved.
Second, done. Roll call, please.
Dr. Allen, Mr. Marsh,
Yeah.
Deschamps.
Yeah.
Mr. Lannon,
Yes.
Ms. Kelly,
Yes.
Ms. Garvey,
Yes.
Chamberlain,
Yes.
Ms. Mock,
Yes.
Ms. Chafee,
Yes.
Mr. Wiggler,
Yes.
Mr. Nutter,
Yes.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes. Good evening.
Very cool.
Good evening and thank you, everyone.